Smoke billowed from the overturned Audi as Marcus sprinted toward the wreckage without hesitation. His calloused hands gripped the scorching door handle, wrenching it open to pull the unconscious woman from the passenger seat. 6-year-old Sophie watched from the roadside, her small hands clasped in prayer. Marcus laid the woman gently on the asphalt, his fingers trembling as he checked for a pulse. The car erupted in flames behind them. In that flash of firelight, he noticed a gold pendant hanging from her neck, a half medallion identical to the one his mother had worn throughout her life, the one she had sworn was one of a kind, the one now resting against his own chest beneath his shirt. If you found yourself in Marcus's position, what would you do? Would you tell this stranger about the connection you might share, or keep the secret close to your heart? Marcus Foster never considered himself a hero. At 37, he was simply a plumber trying to make ends meet while raising his 6-year-old daughter alone. Their 2-bedroom apartment in the middle-class neighborhood of Ridgeview wasn't much, but he'd made it a home for Sophie after her mother Kelly walked out 4 years ago. The kitchen walls were covered with Sophie's colorful drawings, many featuring 3 stick figures, a family that existed only in her imagination. Each morning followed the same routine: breakfast at 6, Mrs. Wilson from next door arriving at 7 to watch Sophie until school, then Marcus rushing to his first appointment. His hands, permanently etched with the marks of his trade, were gentle when braiding Sophie's chestnut curls before school. On especially busy days, he'd leave notes in her lunchbox, simple drawings of hearts and stars, signed "Love Daddy," to remind her she wasn't alone. "Daddy, when are we getting a new mommy?" Sophie would sometimes ask, her big blue eyes serious above her cereal bowl. "It's just you and me, princess," he'd answer, smoothing her hair. "And that's enough, isn't it?" She would nod, but the 3-person family drawings continued to appear on the refrigerator. Marcus knew little about his own origins. Abandoned at St. Mary's Children's Home as an infant, his only inheritance was a peculiar half medallion on a gold chain, a broken piece with intricate engravings that meant nothing to him but somehow everything. The orphanage staff told him his mother had been ill, unable to care for him, but had insisted he keep the necklace. "It's your history," they'd said. "She wanted you to have it." His marriage to Kelly had been a whirlwind affair that crashed just as quickly when Sophie was barely 2. He'd discovered text messages between Kelly and her boss, intimate exchanges that shattered their family. When she left, offering monthly support payments ordered by the court, Marcus refused. "We don't need your guilt money," he'd told her. His pride wouldn't allow it, even when the heating bill came due in winter, or when Sophie needed new shoes. Across town, in a sleek high-rise overlooking the city, Olivia Caldwell sat at her expansive desk, 32 years old and already the CEO of Caldwell Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting orphan children. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd been adopted from St. Mary's herself by billionaire Charles Caldwell, who saw in the bright old 3-year-old the daughter he never had. When he passed away 5 years ago, she inherited not only his fortune but his mission. To the world, Olivia had everything: beauty, intelligence, wealth. Financial magazines featured her as one of the youngest CEOs in the country, yet her spacious penthouse echoed with emptiness each night. The car accident that took her father had left other scars, internal injuries that ensured she would never bear children. Her husband couldn't accept this reality and left soon after, claiming they wanted different things. Like Marcus, Olivia wore a half medallion around her neck, her only connection to her birth mother. On difficult days, her fingers would trace its uneven edge, wondering about the other half, wondering about the family she never knew. That rainy Tuesday afternoon changed everything. Olivia was driving back from a contentious meeting with her father's former business partners, distracted by a call from her attorney about inheritance disputes. Her Audi hydroplaned on the slick highway just as Marcus was driving Sophie home from school. He saw the car flip, pulling immediately to the shoulder. "Stay here, Sophie," he commanded, racing toward the smoking vehicle while dialing 911. After pulling Olivia from the wreckage, Marcus stayed until the ambulance arrived, holding an umbrella over her unconscious form. Sophie had crept closer, placing her small hand in her father's. "Is the princess going to be okay, Daddy?" she whispered. "I hope so, sweetheart," Marcus answered, unable to tear his eyes from the half medallion glinting against the woman's collarbone. the missing piece to a puzzle he hadn't realized he was solving. At the hospital, Marcus filled out the witness forms and hesitated before leaving. Something compelled him to check on her condition. "She doesn't seem to have any family here," he explained to the nurse. "Could you let me know when she wakes up?" The next day, Marcus returned with wildflowers Sophie had picked from the vacant lot near their apartment. "For the sleeping princess," Sophie explained solemnly to the nurse, who smiled and placed them in a water cup by Olivia's bed. "You're very thoughtful to visit a stranger," the nurse remarked. Marcus shrugged. "Something just tells me she shouldn't be alone." Sophie spent the visit drawing a picture of a castle with a princess inside. "So she has something pretty to see when she wakes up," she explained, carefully taping it to the wall. 3 days later, Olivia opened her eyes to find her hospital room adorned with children's drawings and mason jars filled with wildflowers. A man dozed in the chair beside her bed, his work clothes wrinkled, a half-finished coffee on the side table. "Hello," she managed, her voice raspy. Marcus startled awake. "You're up. I should get the doctor." "Wait," Olivia called. Did you pull me from the car?" He nodded, suddenly self-conscious of his calloused hands and the dirt under his fingernails. "Marcus Foster. And the drawings are from my daughter, Sophie." "Why are you here?" Olivia asked, confused by the kindness of this stranger. Before Marcus could answer, Sophie burst into the room with Mrs. Wilson. "Daddy, the princess is awake." She rushed to Olivia's bedside, beaming. "I'm Sophie, I'm 6. I drew you pictures so you wouldn't be sad." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "They're the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen." When the doctor arrived, Marcus and Sophie stepped out. The doctor explained to Olivia that she had no emergency contacts listed. "Your guardian angel and his daughter have been checking on you daily," he added with a smile. After being discharged, Olivia insisted on treating Marcus and Sophie to dinner. "Please, it's the least I can do." Over pizza, Sophie chattered about school while the adults exchanged tentative smiles. Neither mentioned the matching medallions, each afraid to shatter this unexpected connection. The following week, Olivia discovered Sophie attended Westlake Elementary, a school that received funding from the Caldwell Foundation. She arranged a special delivery of books and school supplies for Sophie's class, careful to make it appear as a foundation initiative rather than personal favoritism. When Mrs. Wilson came down with the flu, Olivia volunteered to pick Sophie up from school. "I don't want to impose," Marcus had protested over the phone. "It's no imposition," Olivia insisted. "I'm heading that way for a meeting anyway." That afternoon, Sophie led Olivia through the apartment, proudly showing off her room with its second-hand furniture and carefully arranged stuffed animals. "Want to help me make cookies for Daddy?" she asked. "He likes chocolate chip best." Standing in the tiny kitchen with flour on her designer blouse, Olivia felt more at home than she had in years. She shared stories of her own childhood in the orphanage before her adoption, sanitized versions that made Sophie giggle. "I was in a home for children too, before my daddy found me," Olivia explained as they shaped cookie dough. "Like a princess waiting for her castle?" Sophie asked. "Exactly like that." When Marcus returned from work, the apartment smelled of cookies and laughter emanated from the kitchen. He stood in the doorway, watching Olivia help Sophie wash dishes, both wearing paper towel crowns. "We made cookies, Daddy," Sophie announced. "And Miss Olivia was an orphan like you." Marcus's eyes met Olivia's over Sophie's head. Was she now? As weeks passed, Olivia became a fixture in their lives. She taught Sophie to fold origami swans. Marcus showed Olivia how to fix the leaky faucet in her penthouse, both of them ending up soaked and laughing. For Sophie's birthday, they organized a small party at the park with cupcakes Olivia had ordered from an upscale bakery. It was the first real celebration Sophie had experienced, complete with balloons and a butterfly-shaped piñata. "Make a wish, sweetheart," Marcus said as Sophie prepared to blow out her candles. Sophie closed her eyes tight. "I wish we could be like this forever," she whispered, not quite quietly enough. The adults exchanged glances, something unspoken passing between them. On weekends, they'd go for picnics, where Olivia would help Sophie identify different birds while Marcus prepared sandwiches. They visited the small Italian restaurant where the owner, Giovanni, knew Marcus and Sophie by name, and soon greeted Olivia just as warmly. "Your family is beautiful," Giovanni told Marcus one evening as Olivia helped Sophie with her pronunciation of spaghetti. "Oh, we're not," Marcus began, but stopped, watching the two dark heads bent together, matching smiles as Sophie got the word right. "Thank you," he said instead. One night, as Marcus tucked Sophie into bed, she asked innocently, "Is Miss Olivia an angel Mommy sent to take care of us?" Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. "Why do you ask that?" "Because I asked for someone to love us and then she came." He smoothed her curls. "Sometimes people come into our lives at just the right moment." "I love her," Sophie declared sleepily. "And I think you do too, Daddy." Later that week, Olivia confided in Marcus about her inability to have children. They sat on his small balcony after Sophie was asleep, the city lights twinkling below. "After the accident, when the doctors told me, I felt like my future had been stolen," she admitted. "Richard couldn't handle it. He wanted biological children, heirs to continue his family name." Marcus reached for her hand tentatively. "Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who stays." Olivia's fingers intertwined with his. "Like you stayed at the hospital?" The moment hung between them, fragile and new. At the Caldwell Foundation office, employees noticed the change in their boss. She smiled more, left work at reasonable hours, and kept a child's drawing framed on her desk, a colorful rendering of 3 people holding hands beneath a rainbow. Then came the night that changed everything. Sophie woke crying with abdominal pain so severe Marcus rushed her to the emergency room. The diagnosis came quickly, appendicitis requiring immediate surgery. "I understand your concern about the cost, Mr. Foster," the admitting nurse said. "But everything has been taken care of. The Caldwell Foundation has covered all expenses, and Dr. Phillips, our top pediatric surgeon, has been assigned to Sophie's case." Marcus stood frozen. "I didn't contact any foundation." The nurse slid a form across the counter. "It says here the arrangement was made by Olivia Caldwell personally. She's listed as Sophie's godmother." When Olivia arrived at the hospital, her face fell at Marcus's thunderous expression. "Godmother?" he demanded in the quiet hallway outside Sophie's room. "You had no right." "Marcus, I was just trying to help." "We don't need your charity." His voice rose despite his efforts to stay calm. "Is that what we are to you? A project? Some orphans you can save to make yourself feel better?" Olivia reached for him. "That's not fair. I care about you both." "If you cared, you would have talked to me first, not gone behind my back. Do you have any idea how this makes me feel? Like I can't provide for my own daughter?" "That wasn't my intention." "Your intentions don't matter," Marcus cut her off. "Your money doesn't give you the right to make decisions for my family." "Marcus, please." "I think you should go. And don't come back. Sophie and I managed before you, and we'll manage after." Tears streamed down Olivia's face. "You're not being reasonable." "Reasonable would have been respecting my boundaries. Goodbye, Olivia." He turned away, missing the devastation in her eyes, missing her hand, reaching for the half medallion at her throat. The following weeks were the hardest. Sophie recovered physically, but withdrew emotionally, her bright chatter replaced by silence. She stopped drawing family pictures altogether. "When is Miss Olivia coming back?" she'd ask every few days. "She's very busy, sweetheart," Marcus would answer, ignoring the ache in his chest. Olivia threw herself into work, scheduling international trips to visit foundation projects. Her assistant noticed she'd stopped wearing her signature necklace, storing it in her desk drawer instead. Late at night, Marcus would find himself reaching for his phone, composing text messages he never sent. The half medallion he'd worn faithfully since childhood now felt heavier somehow. Then came the legal notice. Kelly, his ex-wife, was suing for custody of Sophie. Her lawyer's letter cited Marcus's financial instability and inability to provide adequate medical care, as evidenced by Sophie's recent hospitalization. The preliminary hearing was set for the following month. Marcus couldn't afford a decent lawyer, forced to represent himself against Kelly's high-powered legal team. Local news picked up the story when they discovered the Caldwell Foundation connection, painting Marcus as either a gold digger or a charity case, depending on the outlet. Your ex-wife has remarried into considerable wealth, the court-assemble mediator explained during their preliminary meeting. She can provide Sophie with opportunities you simply cannot. Private school, extracurricular activities, travel. And what about love? Marcus demanded. Where was she the last 4 years? She didn't even call on Sophie's birthdays. The mediator's expression was sympathetic but realistic. Courts increasingly favor stability and financial security, Mr. Foster. You might want to consider a compromise, perhaps shared custody? But Marcus couldn't bear the thought of losing Sophie for even part of the time. He worked extra shifts, took side jobs on weekends, stayed up late researching custody laws. His boss reluctantly reduced his hours, unable to accommodate his frequent absences for legal meetings. Mrs. Wilson, too frail to serve as a character witness, could only offer her prayers. That child belongs with you, she insisted, patting his hand. Anyone with eyes can see that. The night before the hearing, Marcus sat at the kitchen table surrounded by paperwork, exhaustion etched on his face. Sophie climbed onto his lap, wrapping her small arms around his neck. Don't worry, Daddy, she whispered. I'll tell the judge I want to stay with you. He held her tight, afraid to let go. I love you more than anything in this world, Sophie Bear. More than all the stars? She asked, their familiar bedtime ritual. More than all the stars and all the skies, he promised. The courtroom was more crowded than expected. Several parents from Sophie's school had come to support Marcus, sitting behind him in silent solidarity. Kelly sat at the opposite table with her new husband, a financial advisor whose tailored suit probably cost more than Marcus's monthly rent. Her lawyer efficiently presented their case: a spacious home in an exclusive neighborhood, enrollment in a prestigious private academy already arranged, stable finances, and even a nursery for the baby Kelly was expecting. Sophie deserves the best, Kelly concluded, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I made a mistake leaving, but I'm ready to be the mother she needs now. When Marcus's turn came, he approached the podium with trembling hands but a firm voice. I'm not wealthy, he began. I can't give Sophie designer clothes or European vacations, but I've never missed a school play. I know the names of all her stuffed animals and which ones she needs on stormy nights. I bandage her skinned knees and check for monsters under the bed. He took a deep breath. When Kelly left, she didn't just leave me. She abandoned our daughter. Now that it's convenient, she wants to play mother again. But parenthood isn't a part-time job you can quit when it gets hard. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, studied him thoughtfully. Mr. Foster, while your devotion is commendable, we must consider the child's best interests holistically. Can you provide Sophie with the educational and enrichment opportunities her mother can now offer? Before Marcus could answer, the courtroom doors opened. Olivia Caldwell walked in, accompanied by an older man carrying a briefcase. The gallery erupted in whispers as she made her way to the front. Your Honor, my name is Olivia Caldwell. I request permission to address the court regarding this case. The judge raised an eyebrow. On what grounds, Ms. Caldwell? As Sophie Foster's biological aunt. The courtroom fell silent. Marcus stared at Olivia, confusion written across his face. Olivia's attorney stepped forward, presenting the judge with a file. We have DNA test results confirming that Ms. Caldwell and Mr. Foster are biological siblings, sharing the same mother. Additionally, we have documentation regarding the half medallions both have possessed since infancy. Kelly's lawyer leapt to his feet. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. So noted, the judge interrupted, reviewing the documents. I'll allow it. Miss Caldwell, you may proceed. Olivia approached the stand, her poise betrayed only by the slight tremor in her hands. Your Honor, until 2 months ago, I had no idea Marcus Foster existed. Our mother was terminally ill and unmarried when she gave birth to us. Marcus first, and me 3 years later. She placed us both for adoption, giving each of us half of a family medallion so that someday, perhaps, we might find each other. She turned to face Marcus directly. When you pulled me from that car wreck, when I saw your medallion, I suspected. But I was afraid. Afraid you wouldn't believe me, afraid you might think I wanted something from you. So I had the DNA test done privately, waiting for the right moment to tell you. Turning back to the judge, her voice grew stronger. Sophie isn't just my niece by blood. She and Marcus are the only biological family I have in this world. The night Marcus asked me to leave wasn't about charity. I overstepped because I was desperate not to lose the family I'd just found. She gestured toward Kelly. I'm not here to argue that wealth doesn't matter. As someone who grew up in the same orphanage as Marcus before being adopted into privilege, I know it creates opportunities. That's why I've established a trust fund for Sophie's education, with Marcus as the trustee. Olivia looked at Sophie, who was watching wide-eyed from her seat beside the court officer. But I also know that love and stability matter more. Marcus has provided that unfailingly, and while I hope to be part of their lives, I would never presume to replace him as Sophie's parent. She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Your Honor, I've purchased a home 3 blocks from Sophie's current school, with Marcus's name on the deed. Should he choose to accept it, this would provide the stability the court is concerned about, while allowing Sophie to remain with the father who has never abandoned her. Kelly suddenly stood up. Your Honor, may I speak? The judge nodded, clearly intrigued by this unexpected turn. Kelly faltered, looking from Marcus to Sophie to Olivia. I want to withdraw my petition for custody. Her lawyer tugged at her sleeve, but she shook him off. Watching all this, I realized my motivations weren't entirely about Sophie's welfare. I felt guilty, and having her back would have eased that guilt, but she doesn't need a mother who's learning how to love her. She already has a father who never stopped. The courtroom remained silent as the judge considered everything she'd heard. Finally, she spoke. Mr. Foster will retain full custody of Sophie. I'm ordering the establishment of the Educational Trust as proposed, jointly overseen by Mr. Foster and Ms. Caldwell. I'm also recommending family counseling to help all parties navigate these new relationships. She smiled at Sophie. Young lady, it seems you have quite a few people who care about you very much. That makes you a fortunate child indeed. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for statements. Marcus ignored them, kneeling to embrace Sophie. Does this mean we get to keep seeing Miss Olivia? Sophie asked. Yes, sweetheart, Marcus answered, looking up at his newly discovered sister. I think it does. 3 weeks later, Marcus and Sophie moved into the modest but charming 3-bedroom house Olivia had purchased. Though initially reluctant to accept such a gift, Marcus eventually agreed it was for Sophie's benefit. But I'm paying you rent, he insisted. Olivia had laughed. We'll call it a family discount. They fell into a comfortable routine. Olivia would stop by most evenings after work, helping Sophie with homework or joining them for dinner. Marcus found a better-paying position with a larger plumbing company, still doing the work he enjoyed but with more stability. Sophie blossomed, delighted to have both her father and aunt live in her life. Her bedroom was painted purple, her favorite color, with stars that glowed in the dark on the ceiling. See, Daddy, she'd say, now you can love me more than all these stars too. The relationship between Marcus and Olivia evolved gradually. Initially careful and formal, they slowly rediscovered the connection that had begun before they knew they were siblings. They spent evenings on the porch swing after Sophie was asleep, sharing stories of their separate childhoods, piecing together the woman who had been their mother. Do you think she knew we'd find each other someday? Olivia asked one night, her fingers tracing the now repaired medallion they'd had joined and framed. I think she hoped, Marcus replied. It's what I would hope, if I were in her position. Olivia watched him tend to the small flower garden he'd planted. You're a good father, Marcus. Better than you give yourself credit for. I'm just trying not to mess up, he admitted. Aren't we all? She smiled, something warm in her eyes that made Marcus look away first. Sophie, observant as always, noticed the subtle shifts between them. One evening, as Marcus tucked her in, she asked, Daddy, is Aunt Liv going to live with us someday? Marcus smoothed her curls. She has her own beautiful home, sweetheart. But she's happier here, Sophie insisted. I can tell. At Sophie's parent-teacher conference, her teacher remarked on her improved academic performance and social confidence. Having both of you so involved has made a world of difference, she told Marcus and Olivia. Oh, I'm just her aunt, Olivia clarified. Family comes in many forms, the teacher replied kindly. What matters is the love. On Sophie's next birthday, they hosted a proper party with her classmates. As the children played in the backyard, Marcus and Olivia stood side by side, watching Sophie's joyful face as she prepared to blow out her candles. "Make a wish, honey," Olivia called. Sophie closed her eyes tight, then blew with all her might. "I wished for our family to stay together forever," she announced, ignoring the rule about keeping wishes secret. Marcus and Olivia exchanged a look over her head, something unspoken passing between them. For a moment, Olivia's hand brushed against his, and he didn't pull away. That night, after the guests had gone, and Sophie was asleep surrounded by new toys, Marcus stood at the kitchen window. He could see the lights still on in Olivia's car as she sat in the driveway, seemingly reluctant to leave. His phone buzzed with a text message. "I've been thinking about the home we never got to share growing up." Marcus smiled, looking up at the star-filled sky. "Sometimes broken pieces find their way back to each other in their own time," he whispered, creating something even more beautiful than before. He began typing a reply, the cursor blinking with possibility. If this healing journey touched your heart, please like this video, share this story, and subscribe to our channel to add more faith in human connection and family bonds. What do you think should happen next? Should Marcus and Olivia allow their relationship to evolve beyond family ties? Or should they preserve what they've found as siblings?